We have a really great panel now, so I'd like to invite the panelists up, and we'll sit here. These are three great startups that really define exuberant cities and citizen engagement. And from a housekeeping point of view, 30 minutes from now, the workshops will start, and there's a workshop on urban prototyping. So the stuff I was talking about earlier, if you're interested, if you want to participate, we'd love to engage all this talent. So upstairs in a half an hour, we're going to get into that in depth. Morning, guys. So why don't you each introduce yourselves? And yes. Oh, good. Let's go see where we can be seen. Thank you. One more. So let's do quick introductions, and then I'm going to have each of you kind of do a little bit of an overview, because your apps are incredibly visual, so I think we need to see them. And then I want to kind of get into talk about them and the market and what inspired them. These are two that are kind of in the broader space of getting to know your city, both physically and from a guide point of view, and one that is in the how you control your home and energy space. And they're all innovative and have kind of a lot of interesting momentum. So let's start. Go ahead.
My name is Rian. Sorry, you guys hear me okay? My name is Rian Liebenberg. I'm the CEO and co-founder of a company called Recce. Recce in the UK is short for going on an exploration discovery. So it's all about finding useful, interesting information about your immediate environment around you. And I'll talk a little bit about how we do that.
And I'm Pilgrim Beart. I co-founded a company called AlertMe, and we're about the smart home. We have a platform for the smart home.
My name is Marley Fabisiewicz. I'm founder of unlike.net. We're a city guide, and I think we're the coolest city guide, coolest digital city guide at least, on this planet, and I'm going to show you how it looks like.
Good. I think let's start with Unlike, because I'd love you to give a little bit of a demo. And guides are a really interesting problem, because you want to solve for curation, you want to solve for seeing the city your way, and this is an area where really cool disruption is going on. And by the way, the DLDcities magazine that you all have in your iPad was created by his company, and it was actually a lot of that work that funded the app you're about to see. Actually, I know something about talking while they're setting up the computers. So, okay, sure. So, and one of the so if you have questions, so we don't have Twitter here, but if you give the questions to can you audience questions, just hand them on to Lucas. There's a really interesting thing going on here with curation. I don't know how many of you remember Richard Wurman had wonderful guides in the 1990s called the Access Guides. And they were well designed, and they had an incredible point of view. And the question now with guides is, do they come with a point of view? Do they just come with information? And you guys have really solved for that well. While you're getting ready, let's talk about Recce for a second. You have a 3D view of cities going on, which of course you guys can't see it now because it's not up. But
just imagine.
It's what inspired kind of a 3D fly-through view of the world? And your two companies are complementary. You have a platform with which to see a city, and you have really interesting content that tells us about a city. So while we're getting that ready, I'd just love to hear about what inspired it and how you think you're going to change the way people deal with their environment.
So we primarily think about cities as real sort of aggregation of very, very valuable and interesting information sources, primarily driven by smartphones in everybody's pockets. So everybody's contributing to the world all the time, and you're really seeing sort of a very rapid acceleration of the Internet of Things. And the way we go and solve that problem is we've gone and sourced highly accurate data sources, and we recreate the world on the fly purely out of data. So there's not a single photograph taken in the generation of our environment, and that helps us embed real-time data feeds and data sources either as ambient components or as active engagement components in the immediate scene and environment.
Are we ready to go? Yeah. Good. You guys are in for a real treat with Recce, but now another real treat with Unlike. Go ahead.
So, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak here. I want to introduce you to Unlike City Guides. And basically, I said already, we're the coolest city guide in the digital universe. We started basically this thing, the idea was created based on the need of having the right recommendations anywhere, any place, at the right time, and make them accessible easily. So we started 4 years ago with curated guides, quite successfully actually. And with the smartphone revolution and with getting tons of feedback from our users, basically saying like, hey, you need to add this or that, or there's this great gallery in the back alley in Paris, we thought like, we need to take this to the next level and we need to iterate this. So basically what we did is we just launched an ecosystem of apps which enables our user now to create their own entries, create places, create guides, and share them with friends. Basically, that means what I'm going to do now, I'm going to run around London, I'm going to snap up a lot of places, and my friend John, who's coming to London next week, he will get a guide from me sent to his app. He will open up when he lands in Heathrow, and he will probably have the best time in London he ever had. So we're at the moment available on Windows Mobile, Android, iOS. We're publishing a tablet magazine every 6 months. And basically, I think the problem we're trying to solve is the big noise out there, because now people will be asking, why do you need another guide with POIs? There's Foursquare, there's Yelp, and all these things. But unfortunately, and I love these things, but these are for me like the yellow pages, and they never get me there where I want to go. So basically, I think, we're trying to filter the noise and bring people really the interesting things in all those cities. Which can be the currywurst booth in Berlin, which can be the great restaurant in Warsaw where you're sitting right next to the chef, or many other things. And we're creating a platform for these global nomads and these cool hunters to basically collect and share, their favorite places. These places, when you go on a trip and you basically come back home and tell your friends about, you're impressed, you remember the food for years. This is what Unlike is about, the special places, the unique places on this planet. So, again, our ecosystem right now consists of 4 platforms: mobile, the web, and the iPad magazine. Basically, it's all free, and you're welcome to download and basically contribute your favorite places and share them with the people in the Unlike universe. So this is basically my favorite restaurant in Warsaw. Also interesting, there might be a DLD going on at some place. You're sitting right in the kitchen of the chef. He's serving you the pierogi right out of the pan. There is a vodka flat rate, and this place is just amazing. And these are the hidden gems, we're trying to uncover with the community we created with Unlike, and with our very strong following. We have 500,000 people right now visiting our properties every month. We had 50,000 app downloads in the last 6 weeks. So I think we're doing quite well. How do we make money? Basically, there's an interesting place. This is a Cold War era listening post by the US Secret Service. It's in Berlin, it's completely abandoned, and this is a place we feature. I mean, it can be the Banksy on a mural in East London, it can be various things, obviously, but we're trying to create a unique experience, how you can discover these metropolises. So how do we make money? We had a great opportunity to work with some major brands like Mercedes, like Samsung and Nokia, creating custom guides, custom apps, iPad magazines, and microsites, basically integrated marketing on a very high level. But I think this was nice because this was feeding us, this was enabling us to basically build this project and build the technology behind it. But I think the next level is getting really interesting. We're targeting right now, and we're talking to airlines, to hotel chains, and to the automotive industry, where I think our big assets, the database of POIs we have, the community, and also the technology can be of big value. That means right now I'm traveling Lufthansa and I'm getting this paper magazine in front of me, which usually doesn't give me any inspiration about the destination where I'm traveling to. I want to have a little tablet, which obviously is going to come soon there, and I want to have my personalized recommendation on this tablet for the city where I'm traveling to, based on my social graph, based on my interest and all this stuff. And I think this is what we're working on. I think this is very exciting. You can also think of the navigation system in the cars. They show you usually gas stations, McDonald's, Starbucks, and the rest. But I think the kids right now buying those cars, the young generation, they want to have the cool clubs, the cool bars, the boutiques, the skate shops, the sneaker stores. And this is what we can supply. And how do we do this? We curate everything. So we still contribute content from our editorial staff, but we also filter all the social content, meaning we handpick everything and put it prominently into the feeds so that everybody can get a taste of the best. Obviously, if you follow me on Unlike, you can see everything what I do, but only the best stuff, what I contribute, will be shown publicly. If you want to see an example of how this works, please download the iPad magazine for DLD. It contains a guide we created with Unlike for DLD and for you, of course, to explore the city. Have a look, enjoy. Thank you very much, and yeah.
I got a quick question for you. So as you were showing me the the San Francisco one,
Yes.
it looked to me like you got a real sense of sensibility. Like there was a guy with the garage rock view of San Francisco, and somebody else like had their unique perspective. How much of this are, like people at the head of the long tail who are curators who just rise up? How much of it are your people? How much is it about voices versus lots of user-generated content? Because
Oh, it's definitely about networking. I mean, we're trying to find the right people who do custom guides for us. And this can be a celebrity, this can be a creative person, a garage rock celebrity, or this can be just some guy on the street. Yeah. If there's a value in the content he created, we're going to bump it up and we're going to make it, visible presently.
the thing I noticed in looking at your product is there was voice in there. I mean, there's not a lot of voice in Yahoo. Yelp has lots of different voices, but you don't get a sense for different voice perspectives. And that
There
was the
needs
cool
to be
thing.
voice, otherwise it's not personal. And if it's not personal, it's just like the mainstream. And this is what we're trying to create, and this is the problem we're trying to solve.
It's a cool thing. People should download it.
It's all free. Please download it. iTunes, Windows 8, all available. Have fun. Nice to play around. And I hope you're going to find some nice gems when you're going to be traveling or even in your neighborhood.
Good.
Because, for me, I'm having a hard time to keep up in Berlin, basically, with what's happening. So this guide's helping me a lot.
Let's hear from Recce.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay, yesterday iOS 6 went live, and the web is awash with lots and lots of interesting criticism. Knowing how hard it is to build, accurate mapping platforms and applications, I really feel for the Apple team. They've had a baptism of fire. I'm confident they're going to get it right, but this is what happens when you rely on photogeometric approaches to go and build and render cities. You're susceptible to high degrees of error. It's a very inert mapping experience and not very, very user-friendly. Contrast that with our experience, same view. What the scene you're looking at here is effectively pure data-generated maps, not a single photograph taken. So we've gone and licensed or acquired a couple of dozen of different data sources, highly accurate but very, very disparate data sources about your environment. So road networks, building footprints, building heights, borders, lakes, territories, contours, you name it. And we figured out the algorithms to fuse all these disparate data sources together and create an accurate representation of the world in procedural geometry. So the reason why we do that is that, first and foremost, it gives us near infinite scalability and processing, and we can keep the environment up to date on the fly. And to put that in context, we've just recently processed all of Great Britain, which is about 30 million buildings, 250,000 miles of road network, and about 250,000 square kilometers of landmass terrain. In an Amazon instance, it took us about 10 hours. At a sum total cost of $140 US. So you've got the entire GB now built in full-blown 3D, every single man-made structure. And so our data extends to 380 cities in 52 countries, but being a small startup with finite amounts of funding and resources, we've focused on a city-by-city approach to get it right. There are a whole bunch of functionality and use cases that we're busy working on. And so you'll see a gradual deployment of cities like this one that you see on the scene here, go out over the next couple of months. So let me walk through it quickly. So first of all, we've got a great degree of scalability and at a very, very low cost point. The second distinct advantage that we have is that you've got a very, very fluid, fast experience. What we're doing over here on this map is I'm busy drawing and rendering the scene as I move around. The DNA of our business is part Google, part gaming development. So we have guys that used to build the libraries for Sony PlayStation Vita. They really sort of crank out every cycle out of a device like an iPad or an iPhone. And we're able to sort of really get a very, very fluid rendering experience. Whether I zoom in, zoom out, twist, pivot, etc., you get a very, very fast, fluid experience. Now imagine walking around the streets of London where you've got variable network conditions, and you're trying to get directions and trying to make sense of the world around you. You don't want to be stopped in your experience waiting for a tile to download and hold your phone up and try and find a suitable connection. You just want that fluid experience to sort of render as fast as you move, and for you to be able to sort of just pay a little bit of attention to it and focus mostly on walking and navigating busy streets. The third advantage we got here is because we draw every single object on the screen, so we're not dealing with a mesh, putting high resolution photographs like you saw with the Apple example, but we're drawing every single object, we can bring the city to life. And so if you look close up, we've got little cars driving around on the road. These are just representations. But again, the data exists to bring in real-time traffic feeds, and you can accurately represent direction, density, flow, incidents, etc., etc. The same thing goes for the railway networks, ferries. You'll see the odd aeroplane flying by on occasion, and we're really sort of able to really just fill the world in with all sorts of ambient life data. So all of that data now becomes available in aggregate in a living, breathing map. And you can imagine further extensions to that we can change very, very easily at the flick of a switch. A daytime London or a nighttime city. So it's just by changing the lighting model and sort of really highlight the hotspots of a particular city that are open at night versus open at day. It's ironically extremely hard finding opening hours and opening times and understanding where sort of the nightlife hotspots are of a given city. And then finally, what we've started doing is bringing in third-party data. So in this particular example, we are bringing in the Boris Bike hire depots, and we're showing the available bikes versus available spaces, because sometimes you want to go pick up a bike and other times you want to drop one off. And we're effectively updating this real time, so you get a real sense of where you can go pick up a bike and where you can drop it off. Same sort of thing, of course, with the subway network, and understanding, it's not updating right now, but understanding exactly what the state of the line is, et cetera, et cetera. And then finally, we have started looking at how places are displayed. And Marley sort of talked about user-generated content and favorite places. And we think about places as sort of living entities within a given environment. Sure, it's directory listings, and sure, they don't change all that often, but people are really interested in understanding which ones are the ones that are trending popular, which ones are most talked about. And so what we've done as a starting point is we've gone and scoured the web for signals of mentions about a place. So whether it be Foursquare check-ins, whether it be Twitter mentions, Facebook likes, recent Yelp reviews, et cetera, we treat those as signals and reference points about a place. And the more signals that are generated, the higher the ranking of that place is boosted. And so ultimately, you're getting sort of the page rank equivalents of places in a given viewport around you. And of course, that changes as you move around city, with hotel district or theater district or places that are more sort of relevant to lots of hotels coming up over there, et cetera, et cetera. And then, of course, you can interface with that. You can, send a tweet or some form of contribution. And that's live. It'll go. I can show you in Twitter when that finally comes up. Twitter is a bit slow in its warm-up. And so there's the tweet. Now, funnily enough, with iOS 6 Maps, that tweet is actually geotagged. So we know exactly where that tweet is sent from, but with iOS 6 Maps, we can't display that in Twitter, ironically. If you go back to iOS 5 with Google Maps, you'd have a Google Maps tile showing exactly the location that the tweet was sent. So very quickly, I know I'm running out of time, our next city is San Francisco. This is actually being submitted to the App Store today. And San Francisco, again, is a great city. with some incredible landmarks. So we can go to Golden Gate Bridge. So if you go there as a tourist or whether you're a local, there is always a delightful experience. You want to see, as an example, Alcatraz. We can display it in its full glory. And of course, we can enable data on that ferry that give you sort of a discount offer. Buy your ferry tickets here and get discounted access to Alcatraz. And so we're starting to integrate some commercial assets like location-based aware coupons and offers. And as a first pass, what we've done here is introduce local offers that you can go and redeem directly within this experience. That's fetching it from the web, so it'll take a second to download. And there you go, redeem it for $30, get 40% off. And so that's Recce. If you're in London this weekend and you want a great mapping app and you want to be able to figure out how to get around and discover great places, please try the app. Thank you for your time.
I'm Pilgrim Beart, and as I said, I co-founded a company called AlertMe. And what these guys have been talking about is what goes on outside your house in the rest of the city. And what I want to talk about is what goes on inside your house, because we all spend a lot of time in our homes. Our homes are our precious possessions. We have a lot of precious things in them, not least our families. And about 6 years ago, when I co-founded AlertMe, it was really based on the realization that we were all now increasingly connected, thanks to what have become smartphones. And our homes are increasingly connected thanks to broadband, but there was nothing really connecting us to our homes and keeping us in touch all the time. And we saw the sort of killer apps for this space as being security, energy, and telecare, keeping a friendly eye on people as they get older in their own homes. And we sort of got to the second stage of that so far, energy. And we kind of got stuck there because it's such a massive opportunity and such a timely opportunity to show people where all the energy they spend in their homes is going, where all the money they spend on that energy is going. Because we all spend, on average in the UK, about £1,200 a year on energy, which means there's about £30 billion on energy being spent every year by people in the UK. And yet we have almost no understanding or visibility about where that money's going at all, which is bizarre. Even just in financial terms, let alone the side effects, obviously, of climate change and in the shorter term energy security that we're going to have as a nation. So we focus very much on energy, showing you in real time where all your energy is going and giving you ideas of what you can do about it. Now in the UK, obviously heating is a big user of energy in your home. And so we focus particularly on that and on intelligent heating, so heating that modifies itself in response particularly to occupancy. There's no point in making your house nice and comfortable when there's no one in it and you can save energy. We have to crunch a lot of data to do this, so we now have a number of large retail, telco and utility customers in Europe and the US, and we typically now hold more data than any of them, and some of them are the world's biggest utilities and so on. So we have a lot of opportunity to do data analytics with this, for example, to show people that they're doing a lot of washing at 90 degrees. If they did the washing at 30 degrees, they would save themselves £65 a year or whatever. So it's kind of like these general government messages you get, except it's personal because it's your data turned into meaningful information that you can act on. In some ways, I suppose we're an example of the Internet of Things, because we're all about putting the things in your home online and then putting them in your control. And I'm going to show a very quick video now. The smart home, connected home might sound a bit futuristic because we've been hearing about the sort of Jetsons future for a long time. But by concentrating on mass market applications like the ones I've described, I believe it's happening now. We've shipped more than 1 million units now. And as I said, we've got a number of big sort of multi-tens of £1 million deals with a number of big players in Europe and the States. So I'd like to now just run a couple of minute video just to sort of give you an overview of what we're about. Thanks.
We've all been in that situation where we get halfway through our day and suddenly worry that we've left that device on at home. Or we leave work wishing there was a way to switch on our heating so it's nice and warm for when we get home. The strange thing is, we now use smartphones to connect us to almost everything in our life. But not our homes? Problem is, we own like a zillion devices. So, to connect to them all, we would need loads of applications, which would be way too complicated and annoying. And hello would leave no room for angry birds. Well, fret no more, because the geniuses over at AlertMe have developed the magic, which basically connects you to all the devices in your home through one simple application. And this allows you to do some really neat stuff, like controlling your heating remotely to get your home nice and cozy. Receive instant alerts if a security sensor is triggered. Even turn off your teenage rock star wannabe's hair straighteners that he just keeps leaving on. Hello? Or text you when he arrives safely home from school. And because AlertMe is just so damn smart, it can also give you feedback where your energy is going and what to do about it. And now for the main event. You see, AlertMe doesn't just connect all of your devices to your phone. It also has what we call magic rules that make them work together. Over time, this enables AlertMe to learn how you're using the devices so it can start to intelligently automate them, which makes things super easy for you. For example, AlertMe knows when you arrive home, so it unlocks your door, turns on your lights, it then heats up your boiler, and whacks on your favorite playlist ready for your bath. I mean, it may as well pour you a glass of Chateauneuf du Pape whilst you're there. What's more, AlertMe isn't just for billionaires, Bond villains, and pointy-headed techies. It's affordable and easy to install, whether you choose a standard kit or build one of your own. With AlertMe, your home is exactly how you want it, all of the time. So, talk to us today.
Cool. So I have a question on AlertMe. It looks like a pretty comprehensive solution. What distribution channel do you use for it, and what are the? It seems like there's a certain amount of integration into the home. So kind of like walk me through how that all gets frictionless.
Yeah. Well, as it said in that video, in fact, I was talking to Mark Shuttleworth the other day, the guy who founded Canonical, who are behind Ubuntu, the Linux distribution, and he was, I think, one of the first space tourists. Made billions, I think, out of it. And I said to him, our goal with AlertMe was to make it not for rich people or geeks. And he said, thanks, I'm doubly offended. So we absolutely wanted it to be a mass market play, something that everybody could use. And the key to that, we've had to build quite a comprehensive platform. There's quite a lot of technology under the hood. We've gone to enormous efforts to hide all that, to make it really simple. And there are a number of entry points which you can buy that just look like products. You can literally buy them off the shelf, and they do things like remote heating, home security, home energy management, that kind of thing. And we thought the main channels to market are the mass market ones, which are anyone with sort of 10 million plus customers. So the big telcos, the big utilities, and the big retailers. So for example, in this country, we've done I don't know if anyone's seen any of the British Gas adverts. British Gas, big utility in the UK, about 40% of the market. And everything they're doing in smart meters, a smart home, and so on, is based on our platform. In the States, we did a deal about a year ago, which is just rolling out now, with Lowe's, which is a big DIY store, about $50 billion turnover. And they noticed that an increasing number of things they were selling were online products, so that meant that the consumer ended up having a relationship with the product vendor rather than them, and also had all these different things in their lives, making it more cluttered and complicated. And they saw the opportunity to kind of unify everything with a single platform, and they've chosen us. So again, we're sort of the platform behind the future of the home for Lowe's.
There seem like so many kind of information sources that Recce could use. I mean, one might display what's going on in your home. You guys have really interesting kind of stuff. So I'd love to hear a little bit about kind of how your products inform each other. Certainly Recce and Unlike seem to have something going on there, but I bet home stuff as well. So perhaps play that out and kind of where we see these platforms evolve in the coming years.
Yeah, I mean, this is the reason why we built the environment that we built the way we built it, because it gives us complete flexibility and control over what information sources we display, and how that's displayed, and the use cases may vary a great deal. But it's no longer a case of just putting pins on a map and doing single deep vertical mashups, but rather how you bring to bear lots of different data sources, and how you aggregate that information, and then how you make sense of all that. And so funnily enough, with AlertMe, it's all around home energy consumption and use. We've talked with various large insurance brokers, including pay-as-you-drive insurance who sort of monitor young first-time drivers and the insurance policies around large landlord estate holdings and how they manage, all of their sort of aggregate utility bills, et cetera, et cetera. And our platform and our environment lends itself to that sort of application. It's a little bit out there, but it really does work well because we have single addressable buildings. And so you can embed all of that data that you generate and that you source within individual buildings, as opposed to trying to do some weird mashup on top of an inert mapping experience. And likewise with the unlike content, I'm a firm believer that user-generated content is the key to discoverability, and everybody's voice ought to be heard, and it ought to be personalized, not only in terms of references within your own social graph, but equally also establishing credibility within a community if you have a great deal of experience and a lot of valuable opinion to offer about a particular sector. Let's say, for instance, coffee shops. If I'm the type of guy that really knows where to go and get a killer cup of coffee, irrespective of whether you're in my Facebook graph or a Twitter follower, and I have that kudos and that credibility, you're likely to pay a lot more attention to me than to your sister, who might not even be a coffee drinker, but a tea drinker.
You have a lot of gaming DNA in your company. What have you learned from people that think about gaming as an interaction in the mapping world that perhaps normal mapping people don't see?
Well, we kind of think of it in a slightly more playful way, there's this overused term called gamification, which I personally am not a big fan of, but the concept is sound. And that is all about building deeper engagement of an audience to contribute and get rewards for those contributions. And to make that playful, make it fun, make it engaging, so that the contributions that they offer are not seen as a cheap trick on data entry, but rather real meaningful contributions where they ultimately own a certain part of the community, a certain part of the city, and ultimately build a strong community around a larger environment. And they build that credibility and all the classic game mechanics of leaderboards and rewards and leveling up in terms of your activity and what you can do, all come into play. And we have wonderful plans for making all that happen, that we ultimately turn the Recce experience over to the inhabitants of the city so that they own the look and feel and experience and the content that lives within that city.
Do you think with your product that you're going to be...
Perfect for Recce.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's completely...
I'm going to pass on the API when we're ready.
I was going to ask,
Yeah.
in 3 years, are people going to be using Unlike, or are they going to be consuming your product through APIs, through cars, Recce, and...
Exactly, very possible. And I think how Recce can benefit, they can get in touch with the how to get target group, which we are basically covering on Recce. And I think that's a benefit for both sides.
We're probably close to out of time. I'm wondering if there are any audience questions before we wrap up. Go ahead.
What's the access method for knowing the live borrow spike availability?
TfL, Transport for London, have recently opened up, again, TLAs, three-letter acronyms, APIs, to access the live up-to-the-minute feeds. And it's ironic because I used to work for Google and put a lot of pressure on the Mayor of London's office to do it in time for the Olympics, and I'm now a consumer of those APIs in my own business.
All right. I think we will wrap up. Oh, there's one more question. Go ahead.
Yes. Can you use for, I suppose it's more siloed system as ecosystem. Can you, let's say, open to other system and integrate it as system?
Is this for Recce?
Yeah.
Our intention, again, over time is to open up not only APIs so that you can contribute content and data, but actually have entire SDKs so that you can go and build a custom variant of our environment for a specific part of the world.